to all in this IIHP webinar on this beautiful evening, and today's webinar is by Dr. E.S. Rajendran sir, and the topic of the seminar is Homeopathy, a personalized nano-medicine and medicine of future. Dr. Professor E.S. Rajendran would be the main speaker today, and Dr. G Srinivasulu, who is also the secretary of our IIHP National, he'll be the chairman of the session today. So the whole program is that now, after formal opening of the webinar, Dr. E.S. Rajendran sir will take over, and then he'll speak till around 6:20, 6:30. Then Dr. G Srinivasulu sir will moderate and chairman the session for next 10 to 15 minutes. Then there will be a question answer sessions, and finally we'll be concluding the day by 7. So I'm taking this honor to introduce Dr. E.S. Rajendran sir. So before that, I will again thank the whole CEC committee for organizing such a beautiful evening, and IIHP has started this webinar initiative during lockdown only, and which has been received very well because number of participants have been consistently in hundreds. But after that, when we upload this webinar on the YouTube, so there are again the hundreds of people who are watching it on the YouTube channel of it because of time differences. So we have participants from Malaysia, from UAE, from Europe, from all over the world, because IIHP is not just a national organization, it has already gone international now. And we have conducted several successful events in the last 4 months. So today's event is our shining star today evening is Dr. E.S. Rajendran. He is Senior Consultant Homeopathy in Mars Leva Medicity Pillai, Kerala. So, and in other words, he is our first speaker from Kerala in this series. So, and he has been author of many publishings. He has 10 books in his basket, and he'll be telling in detail about this. And he has many of the research paper which has been printed because in very esteemed journals, because in homeopathy we homeopaths many a time feel and discuss that homeopathy is scientific or non-scientific. We are many a times asked many questions about scientificity and presence of some particles into the medicines which we are prescribing in 30, 200, 1M or even 50 millismol potency. So Dr. E.S. Rajendran with other scientists has found this answer into nano physics. So in nano-medicine, he has found that answer, and he'll be explaining all that to us. So I'm not taking much time, so I'll not come in between the participants and Dr. E.S. Rajendran sir. Sir, I invite you to please start with your presentation, and thank you, sir, once again for accepting our invitation and taking this time from your very busy schedule. So kindly start with your presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Muktinder Singh. Thank you, the IIHP president and all the scientific committee members, and my friend Dr. Srinivasulu, and my friend Dr. Tanvir Hussain, and many more friends. I'm not seeing the face, so I am not able to call their by name. COVID has given us a very opportunity to sit and think. And we homeopaths are doing it well because we are all assembling at least once in a month in different forums, and we are sharing a lot of information. And as we are very peaceful now, a lot of informations are going into our mind deeply. So today I'm going to speak about the personalized aspect of homeopathy, especially homeopathy as a futuristic medicine, an advanced medicine for the future, for today and tomorrow, because we are using it for today. At the same time, the real potential of homeopathy is going to be exposed and it's going to be utilized in the years to come. And what we are doing is our generation is doing a bridging. That is, we are the bridges between the medicine, homeopathy for the future and today. So especially we are doing a very important work in that aspect which we are not aware most of the time. So regarding Dr. Muktinder Singh has said my important works and some of you through them. My most recent work is The Ray of Civilization. You can see the details the screen, and the Nanodynamics, the first edition which was published in 2015. And in fact, today morning till now, till 4 o'clock, I was working with the second edition of my book, Nanodynamics. And lot more drug analysis with electron microscopy, dynamic light scattering, all the advanced technologies are used to identify what is the content of homeopathic dilutions. So almost 100 samples I have published in my first book, Nanodynamics, which is also translated into German and Spanish. And the second edition is almost completed, and I plan to bring it back down to homeopathic profession in another couple of months' time. And other important books like Nucleus, the lectures on chronic diseases and miasm, and New Light's lectures on homeopathy and philosophy. And I don't need to introduce these books because these books are already there as a textbook for students in many of the universities in India. My main intention today is to tell you something. And these screens you have to capture. These whatever screens I'm going to show you next 3-4, they are the most important research works happened in homeopathy in the last 10 years, which redefined homeopathy. But as they are research papers, majority of the physicians will not be aware of them. And most of the doctors won't read many of the journals because that is not part of our curriculum or daily activity. But this opportunity you can take up. Few of the important, around 30 important research papers which can redefine homeopathy as a nano-medicine, as a genetic medicine. I have given the details of the journals here. You can see the screenshots and you can download these papers whenever you are free. And majority of these papers are available in the PubMed or in other free sites. And you can just Google them and you'll get majority of them, but some of them are paid journals. My first paper, which is the last one published in last year, 2019 end, which is Homeopathy seen as personalized nanomedicine. The conclusion of my work for the last 10 years, which are already there published in 7-8 research papers from 2015 onwards. The other important research papers on nanotechnology, especially from Jayesh Bellare, Chikramain and Iris Bell's many papers, as well as the important papers on research in genetics, which is related to homeopathy, is also being given here. And these papers on genetics, you can see one paper, number 1, you can see potentized homeopathic drugs act through regulation of gene expression. And this is a first paper, 1997, this paper was published. It was a research paper published in a peer-reviewed journal by Professor Kudabaksha and others. And this paper is one of the pioneer papers showing that homeopathic drugs produces epigenetic modifications. But at that time, nobody was aware why and how this epigenetic modification was happened. But after 2010, in the last 10 years, we have so many publications there. We found the presence of nanoscale materials of the original drug substance in every ultra high dilutions. So these are two important events in medical science, not only in homeopathy. That means homeopathic dilutions, homeopathic ultra high dilutions or very high potencies, which produces epigenetic modification in a human body. And these epigenetic modifications are modulated through the presence of this therapeutic principle, and that is the nanoparticles of the original drug material. And this, if you read these 32 papers, I request everybody again, please take the screenshots of these particular research papers and kindly download them. Most of these papers are freely available. Download them. If needed, you can print it, or you just download and keep in your desktop or laptop. And when you feel free, when you are curious to know what is homeopathy, when your patient acting in patients and you are getting great results, just read one paper at a time. And if you go and read these papers, by the time you finish these papers, you will know what homeopathy exactly is. It is much more advanced than what we thought of, what we studied, or even what we understood earlier. So these papers, Dr. Kudabaksh, Dr. Saha, and they have done a tremendous, as well as like Dr. Marsotto and Dr. Bellavite from Italy, and also Iris Bell from US. But majority of the papers are being published by Indians, by the Indian researchers. Homeopathic practice is number one in India, but I can tell you the research in homeopathy is also, we are number one as far as individual contributions are concerned, rather than the institutional contributions. So I just wanted to show you. I just wanted to show you where it works. Actually, last 10 years, a major part of my time I spent for this research work. And this is an electron microscope, what you are seeing here. It is a high resolution transmission electron microscope, that is TEM, which is connected to energy dispersive spectroscopy. So there are two machines here. One is this electron microscope, that is high resolution transmission electron microscope, and which is integrated with a spectroscopic machine, that is energy dispersion spectroscopy. And this machine is the one which I use for my analysis of metals and minerals, homeopathic drugs derived from metals and minerals. That is natrum muriaticum, aurum metallicum, ferrum metallicum, platina, silesia. All these drugs are studied in this particular machine. And I studied almost all the potencies: 6C, 30C, 200C, 1M, 10M, 50M, and CM of all these drugs have been studied. Also, in the 50 millisievert scale, LM1, LM6, LM12, LM18, LM24, and LM30. All these serial potencies are studied under electron microscope. So this is one of the important support I got from the Gandhi University from Kottayam. And for my luck, in 2000, machine installed there where I was searching for an electron microscope of a HRTM of high resolution, which is almost close to 1 nanometer resolution. 1 nanometer is equal to the size of 10 hydrogen atoms. So you can imagine the depth in which we are going into these electron microscopes. And I was searching all over South India to find a proper electron microscope for 2 years. And finally, for my luck, in 2011 end, this microscope was installed in MG University, and they gave me permission to use this electron microscope consistently. Even last month, I used this electron microscope. This is something very important, because homeopathy from the beginning onwards, we had a problem of identifying the active therapeutic ingredients. Hahnemann experienced that difficulty, but in later years, all over the world, homeopaths experience this difficulty. We are getting result in patients. We are treating and curing patients. All over the world, we are doing that. But when the question comes, we are unable to explain what is the content of your drug. Never ever believe there will be anything in the high dilutions, especially 1M, 10M, 50M, CM potencies, because it goes beyond our average way of thinking. So I was not very sure. And when I started my work in Indian Institute of Science in the beginning of 2011, I started working in field emission scanning electron microscope, and I started working with aurum metallicum there first. And when I found the presence of particles in 30, 60, 30 and 200, I was so happy. But when I started doing my work with 10M, 50M, CM potencies, I found it was rather amazing to detect presence of gold particles in such a high dilution. That was against the common belief, and that was beyond our comprehension in the beginning. So in the HRTM, which I told you, in the electron microscope, which I was using in Gandhi University, this is a probe you can see here. And this probe, this is called a TEM grid. It is called a TEM GRID grid. TEM grid is a very, very small grid in which we are using for analyzing our medicinal sample. And this TEM grid is composed of 200 columns, close to 50 micron size. And this is made up of carbon base. And it is segregated into columns by using copper wires. So carbon and copper are the basic content of this TEM grid. And we pour the medicine solution after sonication for almost 20 minutes. A micro drop, you just remember the micro drop of the drug sample is poured into this TEM grid, and it is dried overnight in infrared light and columns, and we go with electron microscopy to analyze each column, what is the content there, or any element is there, any particles are there. And if you identify particles, then we focus the EDS, energy dispersion spectroscopy, for 25 to 50 nanometer area, and the particle will be bombarded with electrons, and these electrons will emit the energy within the elements, because the electrons within the inner circle will jump into the outer circle, and it comes out with a specific wavelength. And that specific wavelength is individualistic, and it is separate for each element. It is separate from element A to B, C, everything different. So that is a pure scientific methodology to understand the elementary composition of a particle. So we identify the particle in electron microscope, and we put electrons into that, electron beams into that, and from the electron beams, whatever energy waves comes out, that energy waves are attached and it is being grabbed, and that element, the wavelength of the particular emission is calculated, and we identify the particle, the elements of the particle, which is composed of what is the composition of the elements of the particles. And this is a TEM grid. Why I am showing you, we are going into smaller and smaller and smaller and still more smaller to the level of atoms. So homeopathy is not a gross science. It is a subtle science. It is a science which go close to atomic level and subatomic levels. We are now reached the atomic level, but I'm sure in the future we will be finding something at the subatomic level also. So from the we are going to another equipment which is called the field emission scanning electron microscope. This is a field emission scanning electron microscope. And I used this electron microscope for nearly 8 years. And I did study almost 75 samples in that. And almost all the plants and organic substances are studied under field emission electron microscope. There are specific scientific reasons for using two different electron microscopes, because transmission electron microscope, HRTM, you cannot study organic material because it will spoil the electron microscope and it will get burned off because of the high energy of the TEM. Where here in field emission scanning electron microscope, the methodology is different. It's more of a scanning of the surface, and you identify the electron particles and its elementary composition. So I have studied many drugs in this. Lycopodium in all potencies. Ecopodium 6E to CM. Ecopodium LM1 to LM30. I have studied Carbo vegetabilis 6E to CM. Carbo vegetabilis LM1 to LM30. I have studied Carbo animalis in this electron microscopy. I studied Naxomica. I have studied Calcarea carb in this electron microscope. And I have studied many combination drugs of different companies, of Wilmershabe, Reykjavik, of SBL, of Bioforce, etc., etc. All these things are studied here in this electron microscope. And to the surprise, every potency, every drug has the presence of nanomaterials of the drug substance. This is something very unique and an eye-opener for us. This is a team members who helped me to study in the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Nanoparticle characterization of the drugs. This nanoparticle characterization. Some sound. Okay, this nanoparticle characterization, this is called nanoparticle characterization of the materials, and this research lead to the discovery of nanoparticles in all ultra high dilutions. I'm saying all. When you go to CM potency, CM is the highest potency. In CM potency of aurum metallicum or ferrum metallicum or platinum metallicum or silesia, you will find the presence of gold, platinum, iron, silicon in the highest potency of homeopathic drug solution. So my dear doctors, dealing with a science which is very deep, which is very subtle, which is not just a plastic, it is a rich source of nanoparticles. Pictures I can show you much different. So more than 33 homeopathy I have studied from all the available sources. And no source I studied in Ephisum, that is for Sorinum. Sorinum 60 to CM, Sorinum LM1 to LM30. And all these pictures are present in my research papers as well as in my book Nanodynamics, which is available with Amazon. All my books are available with Amazon. And Nanodynamics is a book which is 100% based on the pure research which we did in years together in the electron microscopy. So as we know, we have two potencies commonly used, centesimal scale and 50 millisimal scale. And what made homeopathy different compared to other systems of medicine, including Ayurveda or modern medicine, is the process of potentization. Process of potentization gave unique identity to homeopathy. And as you know, so during this period, even during the period of Hahnemann, he never believed the higher and higher potencies will have any material content. Because somewhere in 1815, 1817 period, when he was living in Leipzig as a lecturer, his close associates and friends, especially Dr. Graf, Dr. Hartmann, like that, they all his students and disciples, they potentized medicine beyond 30C and potentized 200, 100, 200, 500, 1,000 like that. Hahnemann was so annoyed and he was so angry with them. And Hahnemann wrote to them, I don't allow you to do potentization beyond 30 because there is no possibility of any material in that. Hahnemann was a great chemist. He discovered the solution of mercury. And he couldn't believe anything inside in the higher and higher dilution if you go beyond 30. So he forbidden others to do that. And he suggested 30 potency should be used for drug proving as well as for treatment and cure of patients. But around 1820-22, his disciples come back to Hanuman and shown the result of high dilutions. Hanuman got convinced, and he again publicly declared, here onwards I have no objection for using high dilutions, because high dilutions are producing curative effect in patients. And when the high dilution started curative results, Hanuman gave a theory that he said, as there is no material content inside, it must be the dynamic force which is there in the drug solution is operating. This is the beginning of our concept of dynamization, dynamism, and life force and vital force in homeopathy. Hanuman started homeopathy in 1990 to find a pure materialistic sciences, but in 30 years he has shifted from material homeopathy into a dynamic homeopathy because of his dilutions have gone beyond the level of comprehension. But after 200 years, now we are taking a U-turn, and we are identifying the presence of the original material in all these high dilutions in nanoscale. And that makes homeopathy more towards subtle material level. And now we realize the subtle material level of particles, especially nanoscale material, can have direct impact in genetics of human beings in the DNA. It modulates the epigenetic programs and it modulates immunogenetic structures. So the story of homeopathy is in a faster phase. And the story of homeopathy is going to be very thrilling in the coming years. Now we identify how we are curing the patients. We know how we are curing diseases. Now we are curing the allergic disorders. Now we know how we are curing the most incurable psoriasis. Dear doctors, we are doing a job which is nobody can do otherwise. An expert homeopath doing something in a curative level. Far beyond the current perception of conventional modern medicine. We are doing it scientifically. Absolutely scientific. An allergy where a patient is taking lifelong antihistamines, even they never get cured. All the doctors attending today, I am 100% sure, will have at least 10 experience, most minimum, or 100 experience of curing allergic rhinitis, chronic allergic skin diseases, chronic upper respiratory tract allergic disorders permanently in hundreds of patients. You achieved it not simply because of any placebo effect. You have done immunogenetic modulation in your patients through the nano-medicine which you are giving in the name of homeopathy. And that's what I suggested you. Or I personally, if you are in my classrooms, if our students are there, I will insist them to read all these papers. All to understand exactly what homeopathy is. So we know nanoscience is one of the most modern science which started after 1960 and evolved after 2000, and which is the materials in a nanoscale close to atomic scale. It's 1 by billionth of a meter or by 1 by 100th of a micron. That is what we call a nanometer. Or you can say the hydrogen atom. One hydrogen atom is 1 Armstrong. When you have 10 Armstrong together or 10 hydrogen atom together, you have one. Now you understand the dimension going into such a certain level. So these are the equipments which I use for my studies: electroscopy, energy dispersion, X-ray spectroscopy, dynamic light scattering technology. These are the methods I use for my studies. And for the transmission electron microscope, I use the high resolution transmission. And a scanning electron microscope, I used a field emission scanning electron microscopy and a dynamic light scattering. Why we need such a study? I started it as a empirical basis, just to understand something is there or not. I was very skeptical in the beginning. So when I found the presence of gold in the 1M potency of aurum metallicum, I was really surprised, because I never believed something will be there in that dimension. 1 potency. But to make me much more surprised, in 10 and 15 cm potencies, I could find the presence of gold. So the linearity of the science, based on the Cartesian philosophy and Newtonian physics, is not at all real and valid when you come to atomic scale. And homeopathy is the best example. So homeopathy is going to redefine the basics of chemistry and physics, which is definitely going to happen in the years to come. So homeopathy, these are some of my latest papers. You can download these papers. Homeopathy is seen as personalized nanomedicine, published in British Homeopathic Journal. Homeopathy in 2019, February. And important paper. This is the first paper I published regarding my research on nanotechnology. That is a Lycopodium clavatinum in American Journal of Homeopathic Medicine. And International Journal of High Dilution, I have challenged the validity of address number in evaluating homeopathic dilution. All these journals are available free, except the first one which I have shown you. Homeopathy is in a personalized nanomedicine, because homeopathy as a journal, British Homeopathic Journal earlier, now it is called Homeopathic Journal. And this is another important paper comparing the nanoscale materials of homeopathic drug dilutions of centesimal scale and 50 millisimal scale muriaticum, LM1 to LM30, 6E to CM. It published in Saudi Journal of Medical and Pharmacological Sciences, published in 2017. All these journals are available online, and you can find these of them if you just Google, and you can get the complete download. And homeopathy is a material science. Characterization of aurum metallicum 6E to CM. It's an International Journal of Current Research. Is a nanomedicine, identification and characterization of particles of Hypericum perforatum. A book which covers everything, nanodynamics. And dynamics is available of the journal. People are attending the conference. You can get it. You get it in Amazon in Europe, and the Indian version is available in Amazon India. And this is my latest work, Ray of Civilization, which integrates philosophy, science, genetics, and all the other related aspects of human existence. This book is on chronic diseases. There are 45 patients' histories are given to evaluate psora, syphilis, psychosis in each location, starting from mind. New Lights, lectures on homeopathy and philosophy. Many of you are aware of this. So these are some of the pictures I am going to show you about what the analysis on electron microscopy gave. This is a HRTM evaluation of analysis of study of aurum metallicum. This is aurum metallicum 6E. Particles in islands. You can see various islands. They are composed of thousands and thousands of nanoparticles coming together. When you have the resolution high, this is a 100 nanometer resolution of the same picture, and when you come to 50 nanometer, you can see the particles more clearly. When you come to 10 nanometer, you will find the particles individually. When you go to 2 nanometer, you will find millions of particles in one area where atom aurum metallicum in 60. And there are hundreds of this type of areas in the field, especially in the grid of the TEM grid, when you analyze, and there contains millions of nanoparticles. So homeopathic drug preparation and the preparation of nanoparticles in conventional nanotechnology today are very similar. We are using the method called grinding and milling. And homeopathy, we use the trituration in the preparation of nanoparticles of aurum metallicum. We take 6 hours trituration to make 6E. And similar type of nanoparticles in grinding in nanotechnology, it takes more than 10 hours to make particles of this resolution. Maybe much more than 10 hours, 10 to 20 hours of grinding and milling. Dry grinding or wet grinding they do. But in homeopathy, we have very specific method of triturating with sugar of milk. And you can see the size of particle. The smallest 0.3 nanometer. And the largest measured 220 nanometer in size. And the next potency is 30 potency of orometallicum. And 30 potency of orometallicum, you can see the structure is different, pictures are different, particles are different, but they contain plenty of aurum particles, nanoparticles of gold. And this is a one pentagonal structure which contains millions of particles embedded within. When you go to nanoscale, when you sit with electron microscope, you will find a different world, which you cannot imagine when you look at the gross world around us. This is the nanostructures of 200 potency of orometallicum. In 500 nanometer resolution, you will find fern leaf-like structures. You can fern leaves-like structures started building up here. And when you come to 10 nanometer resolution, you will find individual atoms embedded within. And this is all a very rare pictures in even in electron microscopy. You would get rarely such beautiful pictures. And once you go to 1M potency, this is a 1M potency of orometallicum, and you find the fern leaf structure started building up in 200 potency. When it comes to 1M potency, you can find the fern leaves are well organized, or you can say it take the shape of various types of ornaments, as the gold does always. And these are the further high resolutions. And sometimes in these studies, what happens is when you pass electrons for EDS, the electrons bombard an amount of energy. And these particles are so subtle and they get disintegrated sometimes. Because it contains carbon in the beginning of titration, sugar milk is made up of organic material, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So the carbon material is there most of the time, and this carbon material, when it is bombarded with electrons of EDS, it gets just burned off. So that is what happens sometimes in the studies. And once we come to the potency of orometallicum, you will find again plenty of particles. You just remember we are taking a micro drop. A micro drop we are using for the analysis. The sealed bottle of orometanum, we sonicate in the water bath for 20 minutes. Open the bottle, take a micro drop by using a micro pipette from the middle of the bottle, and that micro drop is poured into the template. And this is tried for a day and analyzed. Particles get dried and particles get deposited in between each columns. And in 10M potency, we have enough gold nanoparticles inside. When you go to 50M, the 50M potency of orometallicum, you will find enough nanoparticles of gold. Plenty are there. And when you go from 10M to 50M, you will find in metals especially, maybe because of the more subtle particles will come together and they show larger size. That's why you are finding 458 nanometer size particles in 50M, which is much lesser in 10M scale of potency. But the smaller particles you can find it is 3 nanometer. And this is a CM potency of gold, orometallicum. This is a Wilmer-Schwabe medicine I have taken. And this is a gold orometallicum in CM. And you can see in each potency, the look is different, morphology is different, particle size and shape is different. This is an agglomerate. We call it as an agglomerate. Large part, so many particles comes together along with the organic material and clumped together, and that shows a large thing. And these are individual particles spread around. And here you can see all these things are individual, separate particle materials. So orometallicum, from 6E to CM, every dilution which we use in our practice contains the presence of nanoparticles, and which contains different elements in that. Aurum is universally present, you can see here. Copper and carbon will come because they are the content of the template. Even if they are present in our homeopathic dilution, carbon is present because we are using sugar milk for titration. Beyond that, when the beams are exposed to the bottom of the TEM grid, there is composed of carbon, so carbon element will be visible. And whenever the electrons are passed close to the copper wires, again the copper element will be shown. So copper and carbon is naturally it is there, but other elements comes and go. Some potencies you will find some other elements, some other potency you will find. But in general, when you look at it, gold is universally present. Copper and carbon can be detected basically, and other elements which comes and goes in different potencies, maybe as impurities or maybe due to some other reasons which we have to analyze more and study more. And the particle size of orometallic nanoparticles from 60 to C, I have shown here. And all the smaller particles in potencies you can find from 60.3, 3 nanometer, 5 nanometer, 5 nanometer, and 25 nanometer, biggest in 10M potency in the lower size particles, and also oromet and oromet CM, 50M and CM. Again, you can see particles less than 8 nanometer in average for the smaller particles. Larger particles have a different dimension because it can be a combination of 5 particles or 100 particles together sometimes. So it varies. So this is one example I just wanted to show you regarding the high resolution electron microscopy, transmission electron microscopic study of orometallicum, 60 to CM potencies. I have studied the LM1 to LM30 of orometallicum also, that is available in the book Ray of Nanodynamics. This is another important drug which we use our day-to-day practice, that is hypericum. Since it is a plant and organic material, it has been studied by using field emission scanning electron microscope and EDS, FESM and EDS. And they show different structures. You can see here, this is a 200 nanometer resolution. And you will find all these are particles. And these are particles in 200 nanometer. Why it is 200? Mostly you will see in FESM, 200 or 100. If you go to 50 nanometer, 10 nanometer, the whole material will get burned off. Because of the energy levels vary, these subtle particles get destroyed. So we are limiting sometimes to 100 nanometer, 200 nanometer resolution in the studies of FESM. Whereas in metals, you can hold. That is why 2 nanometer sometimes, 5 nanometer, 2 nanometer, 10 nanometer resolution, and we get atomic arrangement in some studies, especially in the ferrometallicum. I have natrium-muriaticum. I have very specific individual atomic arrangements we can find when you go to 5 to 2 nanometer resolution. But in FESM, it is not possible. And you can see the particles of 200C. This is a hypericum 1MC, 1M potency. Individual particles are coming together and the larger particles form as aggregates. And the 1M potency, 10M potency of hypericum, you can see the similar structures and particles present. And in 50M, you will find particles of hypericum inside, and CM also you are finding nanoparticles of hypericum dilution. And this all organic materials, whether it is lycopodium or hypericum or sorinum or carbovegetabilis, you will find universally carbon and oxygen. Elementary composition goes for carbon and oxygen basically. And in this drug, especially in this drug of I found there is a universal presence of silicon. Other elements ignorable, but this silicon is consistently present in this one. But in other drugs where I studied, lycopodium, naxomica, carboveg, I couldn't find any silicon. So the basic plant which we are taking, which composed of a set of particles, such elements, and these elements will reflect in the further dilutions and higher potencies of homeopathic drugs. So this is the comparative weight percentage of carbon and oxygen. And Carbon and oxygen are universally present in all organic material, including plants, nosodes, and it is there in every organic material, basically, and that the carbon and oxygen are major component, or sometimes the sole component of nanoparticles of plants and other organic materials. This is a particle size. You can find the particle size of plant drugs are comparatively bigger than that of metallic drugs and minerals. Probably that is the one reason observed for the last 200 years, and many people have written, including Henneman or Kent, metallic drugs act more deeper, more constitutionally. Metallic drugs as well as the mineral drugs than the plant. This is a common belief which we had. Our teachers used to say when we are students, for deep action constitutional drugs, majority of them are deriving from metals and minerals. Definitely plants are acting. Pulsatile lycopodium are deep acting. There is no doubt about that. But in general, this is a statement given by majority of homeopathic teachers. And it is validated because when you go to the electron microscopy, you will find every metals and minerals, majority of their particles are within 10 nanometer scale. That is called quantum dot size. Quantum dot size nanoparticles have a unique characteristics compared to material. They have a different morphology, they have a different chemical property, they have a different mechanical property, and their electronic properties are also different. And particle less than 10 nanometer has easy penetrability to our cytoplasm. It simply transports through the cytoplasmic membrane, and it can simply transport through the nuclear membrane. It can directly go and attach with the DNA. This is one of the very, very unique property of particles less than 10 nanometer. There are many studies, not in homeopathy or medicine, but in nanotechnology, repeatedly said, nanoparticles of this dimension has no barriers. It directly enters. Probably, I'm not saying, probably that would be the reason for deep action of metals and minerals constitutionally when you prescribe in homeopathy. And what we are seeing in the electron microscopy also now. Control. Field emission analysis and HRTM analysis of dispensing alcohol, original dispensing alcohol, which is used for the preparation of drug. The same alcohol is being used for the control, and you couldn't find any particles. I have done an analysis of, I prepared the medicine up to 30C dilution, and I analyzed all the dilutions under electron microscopy, and there was no particle present. That means the solute which you take in the solution for the primary trituration or succussion is the basic element which sustain the elements of nanoparticles in all dilutions. It's not coming from the air or vacuum. It is coming from the solute which you are using in the first stage of preparation. And that is the reason I say very confidently that homeopathy is for nanomedicine. Whatever attempt done in modern medicine in the last 20 years to prepare a nanomedicine was an absolute failure. But homeopaths are using nanomedicine and nanoparticles of the original drug material as a therapeutic agent, and which is capable of producing epigenetic modifications and also immunogenetic modulations, and that is curative. That is the reason why homeopathy is curative. At the same time, people are not able to understand why it is curative, and the common scientists, I try to call them common scientists because they don't want to look beyond the box. And why they say it is a placebo? Because if they agree to say that, yes, it contains the nanostructures, the linear principles created the science of today has to be modified. And that is going to be a difficult job, but it is going to be a real situation where the science has to modify itself. Homeopathy has an important role to treat the patients and to modify the linear thought of science into a realistic perception of holistic reality of existence rather than disengaged or disintegrated reality of or segregated reality of existence. So I'm going to show you some more interesting pictures for you. We said that when the COVID started evolving, the Council of Research in Homeopathy and Ayush Ministry has said Arsenicum album 30 is a very good drug to improve the immune status, immune booster to people. So the advisory came that homeopathy drug arsenic album 30 can be used to improve the immune status. And the day immediately people started criticizing this statement and this notification of the Ayush Ministry. And my God, you know, you have seen how much of criticism we have faced. It is a placebo, there is nothing in it. If you put a drop of arsenic into an ocean, and that is what homeopathy 30 is like that, people have taken so many examples and came and criticized. But I will show you one picture here. This is my analysis in 2016 or 17 in HRTM. This is arsenic Al 200. This arsenic Al 200, you will find large number of nanoparticles. I am still remembering that every field was filled with nanoparticles. And the size of particles I have measured here, 11 nanometer, 17 nanometer, 10 nanometer. These particles of this size of particles 5 nanometer to 71 nanometer. You know the size of coronavirus is less than around 100 to 120 nanometer in size. A coronavirus is 120 nanometer nearly. Whereas if you use homeopathic drug 200, I didn't study 30, so I can't say anything about that, but it must be close to this. 200 nanometer, 200 dilution C of arsenic if you are using, it contains nanoparticles of arsenicum album in 5 to 50 or 70 nanometers. In that, maximum number will be 5 to 10 nanometer size. That is, you just imagine the size of coronavirus, which is 120 nanometer. This is 5 to 10 nanometer size particles. So electropositivity and electronegativity may be one factor which can neutralize the coronavirus, and also these particles of this size which immediately stimulates the immunogenetic system. And that gives enough immunity to individual cells to prevent the entry and multiplication of virus. And there are reports all over the world where people have taken arsenic, they are not infected, majority of them. If somebody got infected, the infection status is only mild. They have all contracted a very mild corona infection, not a very severe. So that shows arsenic definitely has an impact. And we are not giving any placebo. We are giving arsenic alb in nanoscale, which is stimulant for immune system. It is never ever a suppressant of immune system. Every conventional medicine when you take, if you take an antibiotic, if you take a paracetamol, if you take a steroid, all these drugs are suppressing the immunity, preventing the natural course of the disease. Every time when you take these drugs, your immune status will slowly come down. Whereas every time when you take homeopathic medicine, your immune status will never ever get inhibited or suppressed, but slowly your immune status will improve. This is a very important observation which we have to be very careful about, and it has to build a confidence in our mind, because none of the homeopathic drugs reduced or suppressed immunity of human beings. Immune status. That is why you get immune. Sometimes we get severe medicinal aggravation. It is a hyperactive immune system. You stimulate the immune system. For a simple example, when you treat a psoriasis patient with steroids or regular ointments or conventional treatment, immediately the lesions will vanish and it suppresses your immune cells. And when you withdraw the drug, the disease will come back. Whereas when you give a homeopathic medicine for that patient, if your dose is very minimal, you may be having no aggravation. But if your dose is slightly increased, you all experience that in skin diseases, especially allergies, you will face a very severe aggravation because there is a hyperactivity of immune system, drug induced, because our drug can stimulate the immune system. It never suppresses the immune system. So the conclusion for this is all the potencies of aurum metallicum and all the potencies of hypericum contains nanoparticles. And aurum metallicum contains gold nanoparticles and hypericum contains carbon and oxygen as the primary elements. Therefore, I have said in every international stage that homeopathy is basically a nanopharmacology, homeopathy is a nanomedicine, and homeopathy is a personalized nanomedicine. I'm coming to that point why we call homeopathy is a personalized nanomedicine. Before that, we should understand something. We all studied anatomy, physiology, biochemistry in detail. And we studied gross physiology, gross anatomy, gross biochemistry. We never studied anatomy and physiology at the nanometer scale. We have studied the blood contains hemoglobin, red blood cells, white blood cells, and also we have all sort of cells in our blood, and also we have all sort of receptors, and we have a lot of immunogenetic proteins. Everything we studied as fundamentally there, but we studied the gross physiology as the basis. But when you look at now, after years of experience and after the years of advancement of science, the complete human system is operated in nanoscale, not in the gross scale. Every organ, every system, you look at it as a gross organ. But when you look at it minutely, you will find this gross organ is composed of minute nanoscale structures. So the human body is composed of nanoscale structures, nanoscale biological structures. So biological systems are fundamentally managed in nanometer scale, not in the gross scale. For example, you see that cells contains DNA, RNA, ribosomes, mitochondria, lysosomes. They are all nanostructures. But when you take a gross cell, you say it is bigger. But the gross cell is composed of hundreds of organelles, nucleus. Nucleus contains DNA. And a human DNA in a single nucleus is having 2 meter length. If you open a cell in our body, open the nucleus, take out DNA, stretch it in full length. It is coiled, it is coiled and placed in the DNA, in the nucleus. If you stretch it and lengthen it, it is 2 meter. And how many cells in our body? We have around 80 to 100 trillion cells in our body. Every cell has a nucleus and a DNA. And within one cell, this 2 meter DNA is made up of 3 billion base pairs. 3 billion base pairs. It's around 30,000 genes. That means every gene is composed of nearly 100,000 letters, coding letters. This is the basis of human existence. And if you take the complete DNA from a human body and stretch it full length, it is double the diameter of solar system. It's around 20 billion kilometers. Solar system is hardly 9 billion kilometers. So we are dealing with human beings. As ourselves we are dealing, as we are dealing with our other human beings, as patients. We never realize that things. We look at the gross structure. But within the gross structure, the subtle structures are very relevant and very important, and they are the controlling part. So DNA, RNA, hormones, enzymes, receptors, antigens, antibodies, everything is in a nanoscale. So the existence of human beings or any organic structure in the world is DNA coding. And this DNA coding is the basis of growth, development, and termination of life. How the DNA structure operates, it's very interesting. I'll tell you. When a person is born as a single cell, as a with the union of sperm and ovum in the uterus of the mother, a single cell which contains the both maternal and paternal DNA. A single cell has the same number of chromosomes what we need, number of coding material what we need, and whatever 100 billion trillion cells created later is the replica of the same cell. Organs and tissues, when they are individually developed in the intrauterine life, the 3rd week, 6th week, 12th week, 20 weeks, 4th week, you know that pluripotent cells convert and form into an organ tissue. And when these pluripotent cells are formed into individual organ, eye or hearing or heart or brain or if your liver or kidneys or whatever it is, it contains the same cell. But how it is separated? It is separated because there are specific genes which are coded for the formation of the organ, its structure and functions. That the genes are switched on when your particular pluripotent cell is migrated into an organ function, and other genes are switched off. So this switching on and switching off mechanism in the genes is the basis of our complete development. And this is equally applicable in the disease formation and disease cure also. This is very, very important. Therefore, what I suggest is the conventional mechanistic model of conventional biomolecular medicine, that is what we call allopathy or modern medicine, is completely outdated. Not at all an advanced science anymore. It was a science of the past. It is not going to be the science for future. Because it has no role to play in the development of human being at the DNA level, in the immunogenetic level. Wherever it operates in immunogenetic, producing enough toxicity and it produces enough complications. Treatment is alien to modern medicine. Gross level of treatment, they are doing well. But humanity cannot go with this gross level of treatment. It has to be modified into subtle level of treatment at the genetic level. DNA needs the most minimum stimulus. Immune system and immunogenetic system needs most minimum stimuli. That's why few nanoparticles of a drug is enough to modify. It can switch off and it can switch on a DNA functioning. And that functioning leads to curing diseases and it can produce transient epigenetic programs in drug coding also. So this is very important science which we have to understand slowly. So our human complication system is, the genetic system is so complex. I told you about this 2 meter length of the DNA in a single cell and 3 billion base pairs. And it is so big. And the reality is, regarding the DNA, our knowledge today is less than 2%. That is only the coding we know. That is less than 2% of the DNA. But the 98% of our DNA is unknown to us. This is a very tricky situation. So we have miles to go. Long way to travel to understand little bit more about our DNA and our existence. And this is the basic genetic basis of existence. Homeopathy is a nanopharmacology because we have seen that homeopathic ultra-high dilutions universally contain nanoparticles of the drug material. And we have around 100 plus papers published in the last 10 years showing that homeopathic dilutions are capable of producing epigenetic modifications. So we can connect two phenomena here. One phenomena is drug proving phenomena in homeopathy, which every homeopath understands. We take 30 dilution, 30 potency pills, 3 or 4 pills 3 times a day continuously, and we produce signs and symptoms. Produces signs and symptoms because it produces transient epigenetic modification in specific genes. And when you do it in specific genes, you switch off or switch on specific gene transiently because of transient stimulation with a specific drug. It has DNA specificity, a specific gene specificity. Therefore, it produces specific set of signs and symptoms. When you prescribe a drug on the basis of similar signs and symptoms, and act in the same genes and same. Therefore, it can produce curative effect. That is why similia similibus is really a true principle of cure for human disease. These are a slide which I am just going to show you with the permission of Professor Budabaksh. He gave permission to show this earlier. And these are the signaling pathways, cell cycle analysis, genetical parameters, histology and immunofluorescence studies done. And this is a study which has shown that there are specific signaling pathways. This study is done molecular strategies for combating cancer, and you can see that homeopathic drugs, especially homeopathic drugs CKL-core30 fed mice, produces gene upregulation and gene downregulation with a specific signaling pathway, and that produces increasing in cell population, and also it controls the progress of cancer. It is based on histological features of skin papilloma induced in using carcinogenic substances in mice. Animals have shown a different parameter. You can see here DMPI-induced skin papilloma, and here you can see that external morphology showing development of skin effect of CKL-core30 versus placebo. This is a normal animal. This is a carcinogenic DMPS-fed animal with multiple skin papilloma, and this is a succussed alcohol-treated animal. That means placebo-treated animal. This is CKL-core treated with CKL-30 animal. It got, and there they studied which are the pathways are changed, and definite signaling pathways are activated when they are using CKL-core. This is applicable for all the drugs in homeopathy, but we have to study each and every drug separately, and we have to do each and every drug analysis in relation to genetics. Then we understand how exactly homeopathy works in every important diseases. And this is a study published in Kondrako genetic modification. You can see it in a universal. You can download it and you can. And another important drug study is ultra high extract of hydrastis, which I have shown you now in my nanotechnology study. The hydrastis I show hypericum, sorry. And Kondurango induces epigenetic modification and alter gene expression. Some of the important genetic related papers I have shown you earlier, and again you have to please download and read when you are free. So homeopathy is a nanopharmaceutical discovered by Dr. Samuel Hahnemann. There is no doubt about that. So the conventional biomolecular medicine are basically life-saving approach. It induces necessary parameters, and it uses all the technologies and technique to save the life when the life is in danger. And for that, modern medicine is the pioneer. But as a treatment strategy for the treatment of natural chronic and natural acute diseases, it is a complete failure. That is what we are seeing in the case of COVID. So that is the reason why homeopathy is still surviving. Even with all sort of attacks against its science, its merits, its capabilities, homeopathy is still surviving very strong, and it is going to be much more stronger in the years to come. Because the basic science standing behind homeopathy is real, true, and it is more deeper. So basically the genetic basis of existence is something which is not integrated into conventional medicine, but it is absolutely integrated into homeopathic medicine unknowingly. We were not knowingly doing that. So the conventional medicine on some of the reports of 1910 in the US by Abraham Flexner, who wrote the report about the medical education in America in 1905 to 1910. He visited all the institutions of medicine in America, and finally he gave a report to the US government. Based on that, the current model of conventional biomolecular system evolved. It is more chemical intensive, and it is more cause-effect related, and it is more vaccination related as well as organism related, bacterial and virus organism related theories. And that is failed to cure chronic diseases. Because the chronic diseases are originating from complex genetic system. And the complex genetic system which leads to the formation of diseases, you need nanoscale material to act at that level. That is why anti-diabetic drugs never cure diabetes, it controls blood sugar level. Anti-hypertensive drug never cure hypertension, it controls blood pressure. Anti-allergic drugs never cure allergic diseases, whereas it controls allergy well. Anti-tumor drugs never cure a tumor, whereas every homeopath have experienced at least some good cases of diabetes they have cured, hypertension they have cured, tumors they have cured, allergy they have cured universally in large numbers. And this clinical difference is justified, and this clinical difference is really a worthy thing because we have drugs which act in the genetic system itself with a definite principle of similia similibus curanter. That's why I believe that nanopharmacology of homeopathy is the best therapeutic option for natural cure in the years to come. This is the future of humanity and the future of medicine. Now we look at the progress of knowledge, how the knowledge is progressed. From the gross matter, Aristotle has divided the matter analysis into 10 categories. That is 2500 BC 500, 2500 years back. 200 years, 2000 years later, Newton has created definite laws of motion, laws of gravity. But it was closely related to the material world of gross matter. But after 400 years, Einstein's theories came where the matter and energy defined as same or interchangeable, which needs a complete rearrangement of learning. But sorry to say that medical science never changed. Medical science stick on to the basics of conventions of physics of Newton. Objectivity and predictability is the basic purpose and principle of. And biological existence of human being defined by Cartesian principle divided the human being into body and mind into separate entities. Cartesian philosophy defined body has to be viewed as body and mind has to be viewed separately. That is why in medicine we have every speciality has organ-based speciality, and psychiatry is only a speciality. It is not an integrated part of existence. But in conventional medicine, it goes into the mechanistic model, whereas in homeopathy, we have taken a different route. We have taken a holistic way. In a holistic way, your heart palpitation increases. We consider the mental symptom in association with that, because your mind can influence each and every cell and each and every organ in the body. This is a different direction of travel. Medicine studied individual organs and functions specifically and tried to cure them specifically. That is, we have reached the level of organ transplantation. We are able to transplant the liver, kidney, heart, everything. We are not able to cure a chronic disease by therapeutic approach in modern medicine, but in homeopathy it is possible because approach. Mind and body unity is the basis of homeopathy, whereas mind and body separation is the basis of conventional biomolecular medicine of today. And this is something we need to know, then we understand there is conflict between modern medicine and homeopathy, because this is a totally different way of approach. And understanding each other is very difficult. If you really open your mind, you understand each other. Otherwise, you will not understand each other. That's why conventional doctors most of the time don't understand what it means. When you treat and cure a patient, they say, why it happened? I don't know, because it's against science. It never happened in science because they think the science is limited to conventional medicine. Science is broader. Science is to anybody else. It is not in the pocket of any scientist. Science is not in the wallet of anybody else. Science is observation of nature and utilization of knowledge gained from the nature for the better purpose of existence. So the present research findings, which I had done in the last 10 years, produces nanoparticles in the drug solutions. Homeopathic drugs act in the epigenetics. Homeopathy is a personalized nanomedicine. Why? Because any medicine in modern medicine, doctor anywhere in the world, in America or in Canada or in India or in Africa, for a diabetic patient or a hypertensive patient, they give the same drug based on the statistical values. But in homeopathy, when you treat a patient anywhere in the world, every doctor may be prescribing a different drug, not exactly same drug, because we individualize the patient. He need a different drug, and the same disease come different patients to our clinic. 10 diabetic patients come to my clinic. I am not always same drug. I may and that individualization makes homeopathy stronger. And that is why we call homeopathy a personalized medicine. It is a personalized nanomedicine. And the homeopathic individualization of a patient is a way to sketch the genetic blueprint. What are we doing when we are individualizing a patient? What medicine doctor is doing? He will take the cholesterol level, he will take the blood sugar level, he will take the thyroid functions level, and he prescribe accordingly. He don't need to know your sleep, he don't need to know your mental status, he don't need to know your perspiration or eating and drinking or habit. But in homeopathy, we need to know that. When we are asking patient about their sleep and dreams, their cravings and aversions, their thermal reaction, their physical reaction to barometer to the environment, any individualistic question you are asking to a patient, you extract the information. These individualistic characteristic expressions are the direct expressions of the genetic system that creates the man, that sustains the man, that gives individuality to a person, and that is deeply coming from your genetic system. That is why homeopathic case taking is not a counseling, but it is you are trying to take a blueprint of the genetics of the core genetic factors you are trying to interact, and you are curing patients. Because every expression has its root in our DNA. So the science has many fault lines. The frame of science, current frame of science based on Cartesian model of mind and body parallelism and Newtonian model of predictability and objectivity is the basis of conventional modern medicine, which is a failed model. And the illusion of scientific illusion of organism as the basic cause of infection, rather than immunogenetic modulation of individual. We are seeing same thing in the COVID-19 now. Still people are trying to tackle the organism, not to improve the immune system. This situation leads to the virus-based approach in the COVID-19. So this is a very critical situation because these decisions are not scientific in nature, but these decisions are fundamentally cost-oriented, price-oriented, capitalistic, profit-oriented decisions. And that is the reason why they rejected all possibilities. WHO, led by the World Health Organization, rejected all other possibilities than conventional medicine, which there is no possibility for homeopathy or any Irish systems or any other methods. They don't even want to look at it because if we prove the efficiency in one time, that's going to kill the huge industry of drug, which people are afraid of. So the world trusted for a long time as the protectors of our health are really not much interested about protecting the health, but they are more interested about protecting the current industry of medicine. That is a reality which is in us right now. So the current world order, which is misguided on the basis of the basic errors of philosophy and the economic models and the current political system where the nations doesn't have of influence, because when WHO declared pandemic, are supposed to follow the protocol they are giving, because that is the way the UN and the charters are the systems are chartered. UN charter has specific powers to UN bodies. So in India, government of India wanted to give Ayush systems to prevent and treat. But the guidelines in WHO, there is not a single word about it. It's a big restriction for the central and state governments, because governments have only limited freedom in these areas. Still, they could have done better, I believe. So possibility of a new world order is the possibility of building in the process of crisis of overcome. By the time we are overcoming the COVID-19, definitely we are going to have a different world order in the process of beginning. And this is very, very important for the sustainable utilization of resources and sustainable existence of humanity, and avoiding the degradation and destruction of human immune system, which is rampantly happening today. Moreover, health is a personal freedom and choice. It cannot be dictated and decided by some centralized authority sitting somewhere else with no face. We don't know who decides. I have a freedom of treatment. Every human being should have a freedom of choosing what they want to do in the treatment strategies. And this is very important. As individuals and doctors, we should carry the light of this thought of freedom. If our freedom is lost in the health, the freedom is going to be lost in every other areas. So humanity is bracing for new realities, and disintegration of current model of health is imminent. And new has to arrive, and the new health model is in the process of arrival. And I strongly believe this health model should be supportive of human immune system rather than suppressing human immune system. And the best option is homeopathy and other Ayush systems. So with this, I'm just concluding. I think I didn't take much more time than which is allotted to me by Prof Dr Muktinder Singh. And I thank for the laboratories which helped me to consistently study these homeopathic drugs in their laboratories, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and Mahatma Gandhi University, Kottayam. And I thank all the people who supported me in these studies. So with this, I also thank every participant of today's conference. And I thank IIHP to inviting me and giving me an opportunity to interact with all of you. And thank you all once and again.
Thank you, Dr. Rajendran, sir. It is really an eye-opener information which you have shared with us today, and we definitely congratulate you for the great work you have done. So, now I would invite Dr. Srinivasulu Ji sir to please do his duty and enhance the work of Dr. Rajendran sir. Dr. Srinivasulu sir.
Hello, good evening everybody, sir. Am I audible and visible, Dr. Muktinder?
Yes, you are quite audible and visible.
It's a very, very pleasant evening. Let me start my concluding remarks. Esteemed President, Secretary and Central Executive Committee members of the Indian Institute of Homeopathic Physicians, and dear participants around the world. I'm happy to chair this particular session of Dr. Rajendran, who happens to be my colleague, my dear friend for the past 2.5 decades. His entire lifetime he has devoted for academics and rare combination of research. Many of us, we confine ourselves either to be purely academicians or purely clinicians, Very rarely we try to develop the other side of our talent, that is research. And I appreciate Dr. Rajendran for fine-tuning this particular facet of research in a clinician. In fact, Hahnemann himself was a great clinician and a researcher. Because of his unstinted research, now we could get substantial and solid information related to homeopathy. And the present generation of homeopaths have to learn these particular rare characteristics of Hahnemann, both academics, the clinician, and a research outcome. Here, I would like to make a few points related to Dr. Rajendran and his work. Rajendran is a contemporary physician with a great interest in research. He has collaborated and coordinated with the experts in other branches of physics and material sciences. His works at Mahatma Gandhi University and in Indian Institute of Science is a commendable work. His HRTM and EDS analysis of all ultra-high dilutions of aurum metallicum are path-breaking. The presence of nanoparticles is amazing. Many times we do come across in our life by our contemporary physicians, the critics, detractors, politicians, and policy makers, and doubting Thomas to put homeopaths into trouble or to question the credibility of homeopathy by asking certain questions which are very, very embarrassing. It may be regarding the scientific aspect of homeopathy, it may be the action of homeopathic medicines, or it may be related to ultra-high dilutions. As clinicians, we should also be very, very careful with these detractors and the critics. And the only way we can face them very boldly is to equip ourselves with the ongoing scientific developments in the field of, in general, science and technology and homeopathy in particular. And I sincerely appreciate Dr. Rajendran to give tangible answers to the so-called scientists in their own language. We have to speak their language. When they are trying to corner us, we have to talk in the same tone and tenor of that particular language. Then only they will understand. We have to survive, and we continue to survive in future only with the help of research. So on one hand, the academics, on the other hand, the research, both of them have to be strengthened. I think this particular webinar is very, very unique in its own way, that Dr. Rajendran has reinforced our knowledge with the nanopharmacology, nanoparticles, and ultra-high dilutions, and nano-biomedicine. The latest one is called as a nano-biomedicine. Yesterday, even in Rajya Sabha also, they have discussed about this nano-biomedicine. This particular book was written by Professor Shailendra Saxena. Maybe you will be reading this particular, I will be posting about this particular nano-biomedicine, because the allopathists are very, very smart in their own way. Allopathists, they have succeeded largely because of the surgical techniques, and they claim all that their success is because of the surgery. When it comes to the therapeutics, there is a vanity in their therapeutics. And to cover up their deficiencies, they try to show homeopathy in a very, very poor light. I'm sure with this research knowledge in homeopathy, I think we can definitely counter them at an appropriate level. And I say that all of you, my dear fellow participants, and I advise you to read this LMHI document, which relates to answers to arguments against homeopathy. The LMHI had conducted a survey worldwide to know what are the most commonly asked doubts, or what are the common arguments by various sections of people around the world. In that, the first one is they have mentioned few things. I think this document is very, very important. You visit LMHI official website and you will have this particular document. I appreciate Dr. Rajendran in this context. The reason for me is the C, that is called the third point related to homeopathy and molecules. This is one of the most debated, demanded, discussed by people around the world, right from Hahnemann's till the human genome era. As homeopaths, we are witnessing several number of cases with substantial changes with the cures. But when it comes to the explanation aspect, the modus operandi, we are not in a position to do it. This is where we have to cover our deficiencies of the science. All of us have studied our physics, chemistry, biology at the +2 level, but it is also high time we have to revise our basic subjects of these sciences, as well as talk to our colleagues, the contemporaries or critics, and answer to their queries in their own jargon, in their own language. On that way, on that front, Dr. Rajendran has succeeded in giving a befitting reply to the doubting or the pseudo-scientists about the ultra-high dilutions. I wholeheartedly appreciate his work because every homeopath, most of the homeopaths, we are very, very shy people. We don't want to discuss with other people. When somebody puts such a question, very embarrassing question, either we try to give some sort of general answers or we try to avoid the question such of embarrassing nature. But the 21st generation homeopaths, we should also be equipped with the latest information or the scientific publications which have been published in various other scientific journals. Most of these things, some of Rajendran's papers have been published in non-homeopathic journals. Okay, I take this opportunity of reading few things, Homeopathy and Molecules of LMHI document. Please read. There is nothing in the homeopathic granules. The homeopathic granules are only sugar. The remedy is only water. 4 questions usually the detractors put before us. That's first. Second question, very embarrassing question they put is only molecules or atoms can have a biological effect. Second question they ask. We should be ready with the answers, not simple, very superficial. We should quote the right scientific journal article and the source of that. Then only they will listen. Otherwise, they will not listen to that. We should be, that's what Hahnemann stated, we should be wise enough with the knowledge, contemporary knowledge, I mean. Okay, the third point, the idea about infinitesimal doses is silly. They say that it is silly. The laws of physics and chemistry would have to be rewritten. Okay. Then the fourth point, the water memory is an absurd idea. Studies from the water memory show that it is unsubstantiated and even a delusion. These are some very, very basic questions which many of these people, they put before us to either embarrass us, to criticize us, and to corner us. For that, we should be very, very... What I'm trying to do is... I'm sorry for the interruption. I'll just say a few things. In fact, Guy Beckley states he was the first person to bring out a substantial answers to homeopaths by writing a book on physical basis of homeopathy. I think that's a one book which we should be ready, we should be well equipped. Now Dr. Rajendran's latest book is available. we have to understand as homeopathic students, our curriculum does not have any information related to this research. Apart from the syllabus, I think the research also has to be included, a part of it, so that our young students will be equipped with the knowledge of answering all these things to the contemporary practitioners or any of the critics. I tell you one other book, as Dr. Rajendran had very clearly discussed about his work. This is the one, The Trials of Homeopathy. The Trials of Homeopathy, probably you have read about this particular one, especially Dr. Michael Emmons Dean. He has extensively worked on various research works which have been done right from 1850s onwards. Okay, right from 1821 to 1953 and 1942, 1998. That's the reason we should be well equipped with the various information related to the current research developments. I tell you, one of the most painful thing is when Professor Benveniste had done a pioneering work on the basophil degranulation techniques and published his paper in the most esteemed Nature journal. He was really hounded. He was really put to a trouble. And he was removed from that INSERM laboratory and he was shown the door. He had done a tremendous help to homeopaths by publishing his water memory theory, but he was treated the most inhuman way by the present the then scientists. As Rajendran very clearly stated that nobody wants fact, nobody wants truth, and everybody wants some sort of false claims and false things, falsitudes. And who is bothered to know about homeopathic ultra-high dilution? Everybody knows that homeopathy is a wonderful science. Is WHO not aware of it? No, they are well aware of it. It's only the present situation is ethics and economics. Ethics and economics. The world is interested about the economics rather than about the ethics. But homeopathy is in favor of the ethics. It never bothered about the economics of it. The world is revolving around this particular economics. When you look at the Benveniste's example is one. Now, in 2009, Montagnier, the Nobel Prize recipient, when he stated that I have taken the basic clues from the Benveniste. Montagnier is a Nobel Prize in medicine for his HIV work, and he acknowledged the work of Benveniste. That's the reason now the Nobel scientists are coming forward in support of homeopathy. That's the reason the day is not far off. Like Dr. Rajendran's words, the nanoparticles and other things, I am sure all these things will culminate in one mighty discovery, invention in the coming days. We have to wait for that particular beautiful day for homeopaths, and especially the Nobel recipients in physics. They are also quite showing interest in this particular one. And Dr. Rajendran was quoting few things, especially the great people from the physics side. Brian Josephson is one great physicist who is a great supporter of homeopathy, and Rustum Rai, great Indian, and who worked in the material sciences so much. And they all say that these ultra-high dilutions and homeopathic principles are nature-friendly, and they are beyond science. They are beyond science. That's the reason, as homeopaths, we should not lose our heart, or we should not be shy in answering to the petty questions which the contemporary physicians or critics or the so-called pseudo-scientists they put before us. That's the reason Khudabakhsh writings are something very, very mind-boggling, and in fact, he should have received the Nobel Prize in the field of medicine. But the moment you talk about homeopathy, the international scientific world, they set aside the paper. They don't look at the contents of the paper. The moment the word mention homeopathy, it's a taboo in their all the scientific peer-reviewed committee. That's the reason we should continue to work, and we should strive to develop our own way of performing the wonderful cures. We have wonderful physicians over here, and there are very elite homeopaths in this particular August gathering, and we are demonstrating cures. But only thing is the scientific community has to lend their helping hand to us. People from Indian Institute of Sciences, Indian Institute of Technologies, and National Institutes of Technologies, if they have an open mind, and if they open their doors, we can use their equipment, we can talk to them. We have collaborative research, we have the intramural research programs where the government of India has given certain funding is also available, so that we can definitely work with them, because our skills are not sufficient as far as the scientific equipment is concerned. I think we have to join hands with the scientists to bring further credence to homeopathy and to prove that homeopathy is not only the present one, it is a future medicine. Dr. Muktinder?
Yes, Dr. Srinivasulu sir, there are few questions. Thank you. And from this platform, I would love to congratulate you on your achievement. Your paper has been published as a team into esteemed journal. So we, on the behalf of, although you are part of CEC, but on behalf of whole IIHP, I am proud of you, and we all are proud of you about being such an achiever in the life. So I would like from all the participants from whole of the IIHP, we have read in the group in the last few weeks that you have achieved by successfully getting your paper published with the team. So I would again congratulate Dr. Rajendran sir. Sir, there are few questions which I will read. The first question I would ask is can we use this presence of nanoparticles, nanomaterial as the standardization criteria about the homeopathic medicines? Sir, please unmute yourself. Yes, yes. No, you are unmuted. Yes.
You mean the stabilization criteria?
Standardization of medicine, that whether this medicine contains this material or not.
Yeah, definitely, because till now it is a good GMB, good manufacturing practices was the only criteria for homeopathic drugs. But in future, definitely, it can be more technologically advanced, and definitely every bottle of homeopathic medicine can exhibit the content in it in nanoscale. It is very much possible. And standardization at that level of homeopathic drugs will bring immediate revolutionary change in the field of homeopathy. So the doctors who prescribe the medicine will know what they are. Patients who take the medicine will know what they are taking. And the pharmacists, the quality of medicine, and that needs little infrastructural improvement and technological improvement, which pharma industry is reluctant to do right now, but there should be government regulation to do that. I'm sure it is going to happen in the years to come.
Sir, how many years we can see this change as per your present scenario of India and world? How much time it might take?
If you look at, ask me specifically about such things, actually with this COVID in another 1 year, I am foreseeing a serious change in the whole economic and political system around the world. But more than that, the scientific validation of homeopathy into a different level, where you define homeopathic ml of homeopathic medicine, lycopodium 30 or natromorph 200, has what are the content, is very important for the homeopathic pharma industry to grow faster. If they invest little for that, they become purely scientific and they can claim it is nano-medicine, and the homeopathy will grow faster and the credibility of homeopathy will increase within no time.
Sir, the presence of nanoparticles in centesimal potency, in decimal potency, and in LM potency, are these the same nanoparticles, or we can differentiate between potencies also by presence of nanoparticles?
What I observed is when the centesimal scale and decimal scale potencies of the same drug are preparing in a different scale and different standards, the particles are not uniform. When you look at found in case of natriumur, majority of particles are highly uniform. But when we go to many other drugs, the particles are not uniform. Morphology of particles varies. And that is what in a nanoscale it happened. When you go to nanoscale, things are totally different than what we usually imagine. So you may not get exact size and shape of particles. The morphology may be different, the size may be different, the shape may be different. And how this size, shape, and morphology will impact in the genetic system may be a level of study which has to be done in the years to come. We are not reached up to that point.
But we can expect that in future.
Because the world is moving from the gross matter, the reality of gross matter, to the subtle levels. See, you look at, sir, when we were talking about 25 years or 30 years back, when we were students, when we were talking about a diabetes or a tumor, we were talking only at the level of blood sugar level. Now, when you talk about diseases, you can talk in the specific genetic level. That means specific genes are getting modified or deranged, and that is why disease is produced. So the knowledge is moving from the gross structure, gross physiology to the basic level of genetics. And homeopathy is already there in genetics, but thing is only we should make it clear. And I am sure it is getting clear for us now.
Yes, it is far more clear than before. Sir, one more question I have in mind is, you shown the slide of alcohol as a vehicle and as a blend material. But in homeopathy, we have a remedy, alcohol is 30, alcohol is 200. It's a proved remedy. So how would it be a different when we, because you might be showing it an unpotentized alcohol, but a potentized alcohol, would it be a presence as a nanoparticle or not?
Sir, actually, I studied, I prepared alcohol up to 30C by myself by procuring the original. And I studied it, the plain alcohol as well as potentized alcohol. And I did use both DLS as well as dynamic light scattering to find out the nanoparticles, the presence, as well as electron microscopy, but I didn't find anything. But one question you asked me is very relevant. That is, alcohol is used as a homeopathic medicine, alcohol potencies. But here there is a difference, because when you use alcohol as a solute, and how the alcohol preparation, you have any idea? I didn't look at it. You are using alcohol, 1 ml of alcohol and 99 ml of water, or 99 ml of sugar, 90 grams of sugar or milk. What is the way of preparation of alcohol homeopathic potency? I have no idea. So if alcohol is used as a solute and you are using as a different material, as a natural neutral product, as a solvent, then there must be something which we have to study. I didn't know that. I didn't know about that.
Fine, sir.
There are many things like that. When you look at homeopathic drug Luna, when you look at homeopathic drug sunlight, which we are using, and X-ray, such things are imponderables, and imponderables are also acting well in human body. So how they are acting, that is a condition to study all these things, and we will be clear about that. We have to study it.
Sir, one more thing I have in mind is that we say we practice homeopathy, and you have talked about Dr. Khudabak's work on the channels through which it works. So would it not be blamable that Sequel core 30 is producing cancer, so it is a carcinogenic? So see, even in homeopathy, in 30C potency is carcinogenic.
That is a very, we are going to a very extreme level, because cancer is produced in that case by a chemical called CABA, and that chemical produces cancer. And Sequel core 30 was given to some animals and it's not given to some other animals. So wherever Sequel core is, it's shown a curative effect. But in drug, when in drug proving, this is a very interesting question. If you go deeper, it is very interesting question you ask me, because when you are doing drug proving, you take Bryonia, Sequel core, you take Naxamur, Natramur, any drug, 30 potency repeated doses, few days, and you produce signs and symptoms. And once you withdraw the drug, these symptoms vanishes. But when you give medicine for treating a patient, there is already a deranged DNA structure or DNA function where this stimulation can rectify if possible. Whereas in a drug it produces transient effect. Transient effect means it disappears with the time because it doesn't make any major changes. It will make some transient. How transient changes happening in genetics is something which will come out in the few years' time because there is a lot of studies which happen in that area. Clinical experience says that I have proved drugs in myself. That's why I'm sure about it. You get symptoms of the drug. Slowly in 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, it vanishes.
So we are talking about the. I have an answer, but I just asked to make it so that students and PG scholars and even we get it more clear, because we all know that there is a natural disease and the medicine we are giving is an artificial disease. So stronger artificial disease pushes the natural disease out. And as you rightly said, that drug proving is a transient phenomena. The pathology even created by the drug proving what stays.
What we are doing is, in this transient phenomena, we are eliciting the signs and symptoms. That means we are eliciting the specific genes where this drug is producing modification transiently. And in diseases, when the same symptoms are coming, you are giving this drug which act in the same gene pool, same location of the genes, same coding area. That is why if it is curable, it will cure. Not curable, it will not be cured. It will be only palliative.
Thank you, sir. Again, there are few things which you said were really mind-boggling, that 90% of our genetic material, except coding, which is 2%, is still unknown to the science. So it is like a galaxy which is only a partially known phenomena to the science, and still science is asking us that we are the placebo science, whether they know only 2%. And second thing, which is the best take of the seminar, is that we homeopaths, when asking the simple questions, are actually creating a genetic map of a person. So how such a subtle process Dr. Hahnemann has gifted us, that we are just doing a simple phenomena of case taking and ruling out or ruling in medicine, individualizing a case, and what a great work we are doing with such a ease. So thanks to Dr. Hahnemann, thanks to you people who are unearthing these kind of facts to us, and it really gives a kick to keep going in homeopathy. Now, few announcements I have, that this lecture would be uploaded on the YouTube very soon. All previous lectures are already, webinars are already on the YouTube. Now I would call on Dr. Tanvir Hussain to give a vote of thanks to the on behalf of CEC committee. Dr. Tanvir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muktinder Singh ji. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Yes. Sir, first of all, I would say to the audience that Dr. E. Srinivasulu sir deserves special applause for today's presentation. Sir, I thank you from the very bottom of my heart, because I have listened to this lecture many times. We have shared the platforms, and today's lecture was it was the need of the time, I should say. It was the need of the time, because I have requested you in the last year that I want to call you in Punjab, that there are many people who really want to know how our homeopathic medicines work. So I especially send this message to the people that you please come and join us, and we will show you the modus operandi of our homeopathic medicines. So really you deserve special applause for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And as Dr. Sir, before paying my thanks to the whole CEC member and the audience, I have a small question regarding this olfaction method. Because Dr. Hahnemann has used this olfactory method, even nowadays we are also using with our potencies, even with LM potencies. Dr. Hahnemann has used this method in his practice. Even for 9 months, he has used this method exclusively, this olfaction method. So what is that material content the patient is inhaling when he is taking this breathe in?
No. That is very interesting, because these nanoparticles can penetrate your skin without any problem. And it can just, if you just have a smelling of a bottle of homeopathic medicine, this will come into, it will definitely come into. So particles are, nanoparticles of this scale are penetrable to anywhere. You just drop a medicine in your hand inside and you just rub it for a second, the medicine will get absorbed.
No, that is acceptable, sir. That is our mind can easily understand. But as far as the olfaction is concerned,
Actually, that is purely science. In olfaction also, when you are olfacting, this nanoscale material is transferring into your nose. You are not keeping far away, you are keeping close to your nose. Am I right?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It will go inside.
Thank you very much, sir.
And I just wanted to say one word, Sir Muktinder Singh also, sir. Regarding this COVID and the science-related issue, one newspaper, online newspaper, Press Network of India has published 5 articles which I have written in the last 2 weeks. Alternate day they are publishing 5 articles, small articles, 100,000 words. And this is a very important article which I can post. I think I can post into IIHP group, WhatsApp group. 5 articles already come, 6 and 7 are coming in the next week. And I request all of you to please read that articles which will top up what I discussed today and which will top up many information which I couldn't share with you today. It's a well thought of articles. It is going around the world. It is published in Press Network of India and IIHP website, this WhatsApp group. If I post 5 of them, I can post today itself. It may take hardly 30 minutes for you to read it. I will just send it today itself.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Please send. We'll definitely share it.
And sir, okay, sir. Sir, can you please throw some light, because there is one school who claims that they can treat a patient from a distance. There is a book known as Transmission of Homeo Drug Energy from a Distance. Sir, does it have any relevance to this?
This is
a 30% question, because I definitely ask you.
Tanvir, I like you ask because we are living in a world, we have different thoughts actually, you know, and people do different experiments, something we find crazy.
Right,
and,
sir.
And every homeopath, if you look at a common man and a general scientist, they think every homeopath is crazy because they are giving just water and treating patients. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So this is the way they are thinking.
Right.
When Dr. What is his name? Sahani's father, Dr. Sahani's father, when he started this hair transmission somewhere in 1950s, and it went on, and people are doing it. I never tried. Actually, I wanted to once when I am in Patna, I told even Dr. Sahani, I will come. I wanted to see how you are doing this procedure. We don't want to mix up all these things together. But homeopathy as science, now we realize it goes beyond the general material perspective. And it has an element, it has a content which is close to atomic level, which we identified. But we know anything which is beyond atomic level or in subatomic level. Of that. This is more analysis.
Yes.
So till that analysis comes, we are not able to comment it on positively or negatively. My perspective on such experiments are neutral perspective. If they are giving result to the patient, we don't need to make a scientific issue of science. Let people practice. If I want to try, I will definitely try. I don't have any objection to do that. I never did it, but I love to do that. But we should not take it to very big. Let it grow by itself in biological way. If one day we wanted to find all answers, we will fall into a deep well. We will not come out of that.
Deep pit, yeah.
Yes.
This
is something
okay, sir. Thank you very much for.
We are free to not to use it. We are free to use it also. There are people use one drug. I was a practitioner using most single drug in my life, but I never ever criticized people using 2 or 3 drugs at a time. I never criticized. Even in my teaching of 30 years, I told students, I practice like that. You see that. That doesn't mean other methods are wrong. And I did in my nanodynamics book, you can see, I studied drugs combining arsenic 200, iodine 200, ormet 200. I mix up and do electron microscopic analysis. And nanoparticles of arsenic, aurum, iodine are independently existing in the solution.
Wonderful, yes.
So let us be very open.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for your eye-opening information regarding homeopathic nanoparticles. I am sure that everybody might have enjoyed it, and at the same time, I request and recommend you this book because I have read a long time back this nanodynamics. I request everybody who is listening me right now that you please go through this book because whatever today Dr. E. Rajendran sir has presented, you can see the elaboration of all these things in this book, and you will be having more confidence in our homeopathic medicines for those people, especially who are having any skeptical mind that homeopathic medicines are just placebos. So I thank Dr. Rajendran Singh once again,
Tanvir,
Dr. Muktinder Singh for
this is
sir.
Just work is published only few months back. The Ray of Civilization.
Sir, I have the same book, sir. Sir,
I know. You have it. I know you have it. But for others,
I
to
have
see
all
it,
of your literature, sir.
yes, we
This
will
is
have a
also very wonderful.
You read it? You read
I
it?
see.
I'm so happy.
I have read, yes, sir. I have read this book, few pages of this book, because I received this copy in coach in the same year, sir. So
Thank
I
you so
have all of your literature. It is very wonderful to read Dr. Rajendran's literature because he is having scientific bent of mind. He is very vociferous speaker. He writes whatever is experimentally proved right in front of experiences. So thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful presentation. You are a homeopathic scientist. I salute your work from this IIHP platform because you have done very landmark job because you have given answers to many of our unanswered questions since a long time. And at the same time, thank you, sir. I at the same time thank all CEC members, particularly, especially our Govt sir, who is the backbone, and Dr. M.A. Rao sir, who is the worthy president of national body of IIHP, along with all CEC members of IIHP and all our audience, the people who are listening you, who has given us qualitative as well as quantitative time to listen you. And last but not the least, Dr. Muktinder Singh, who is hosting all these webinars very efficiently, very diligently. So thank you once again. Thank you very much, friends. Thank you, Dr. Rajendran Singh, Muktinder Singh. Thank you, Dr. Rajendran sir. We will see you soon, sir. And one more request, sir, before leaving this session, I request you, and I will talk to Dr. Muktinder also, that we need your one session on miasm and vital force also, because I have read your literature. It is very scientific one. I know that you can make a scientific bridge to understand these two phenomena which are having controversial points since from the day of Hahnemann till today. So thank you very much, sir, once again. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Tanvir. We'll definitely hold a session very soon. We'll be talking to, and one more news, Dr. Rajendran. Dr. Tanvir has made you Dr. Rajendran Singh. So this is
Sir,
so you are talking Punjabi people, you are Dr. Rajendran Singh now. So
yes. Sir, 1 minute, sir. Dr. Muktinder Singh. Dr. Rajendran, sir, in our Punjab or in Punjabi, Singh means lion, and you are the lion of homeopathy. You are Dr. Singh now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you all for attending. So thank you all once again. Thanks to Dr. Rajendran sir. Thank you, Dr. Srinivasulu sir, and all those who have taken the time to attend this session. IIHP really appreciates your presence. So thank you all. I would again ask those who are not members of IIHP to opt for the membership of IIHP, because IIHP is the only body for institutionally qualified homeopaths, which is representing it even at the parliamentary level. So thank you one and all. Thank you once again. Have a nice day. Logging off.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.